There we go. And we're live. Hi, LuAnn. How
Hi,
are
Sarah.
you?
How you doing? I'm so excited to do this with you today.
It's been a hot minute since we've done a webinar together.
I know. I think it was 19 hours last year. It's almost a year.
I think so. I think it has been about a year. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody is coming in. Wow, that room is filling up quick. We are over 100 attendees already. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This is wonderful. So we'll just give another minute or two. I like to let everybody get settled, and then we'll do a proper intro, what we're here to talk about. So as you're popping in, if you want to take a minute in the chat, tell us where you're joining us from. Popular topic is always the weather. LuAnn, what's going on in your neck of the woods right now? Raining, I think.
Yeah, it's playing with the internet. It's playing with my flight to Chicago. It's playing with all the things.
All the things. So we're going to be patient in case LuAnn's internet decides to be a little bit persnickety. I like that word. Trying to think which word I wanted to use. Yay, thanks for letting us know you're all here. This is great. I love this part, seeing where you're all from. So much fun. What a good spread. Yay. Hello, everybody. And everybody knows I'm obsessed with the weather. So, 80 degrees. Thank you, Sarah Pence, for that. It's not 80 degrees here. It is warm, but it's cloudy. Thinking of raining.
Looking at all the names I know of the participants, Tamara and Denise.
Mhm. Yep.
What else do I know here? Lots of people. This is great.
Like
Aram.
hanging out, right? It's like hanging out with 140 of your best friends.
That's
I
it.
love it.
That's it. That's it.
And you get to talk to them all at the same time.
Yeah.
Great.
Usually I'm talking in a box and I'm wondering if you're listening.
Oh, they're going to be listening today. All right. Well, we're 104. If you're joining us Eastern time, LuAnn has a lot to say. So I'm going to kick us off with a bit of an intro so we can formally get this webinar going. So hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Work of Design Live webinar. This is brought to you by Studio Designer and Mydoma. If you're new here today, the Work of Design Live is an ongoing webinar series that we create to support, educate, and inspire designers. We bring you expert insights, strategies, and real talk on how to run a thriving design business. If you don't already know, let's let you know that Studio Designer and Mydoma are platforms built for interior designers just like you, so you can run a more efficient and profitable business, from managing projects and finances to keeping your client communication all buttoned up. So I am Sarah Daniele. I am the Principal of Designer Solutions here at Studio Designer, and I am very thrilled to have you today because we are going to be having a presentation called Confident Conversations: How Top Designers Defend Their Worth Without Apologizing. And prior to this conversation, we did talk about our niceness depending on where you're living. So I also feel like this is quite on point. To guide us, if you don't know who LuAnn is, we have a presentation today by LuAnn Nigara. She's celebrated business strategist, podcast host, champion of all interior designers, and my dear friend. LuAnn is known for her practical wisdom and no-nonsense approach to elevating the design profession. As always, with this webinar, we will be doing Q&A typically at the end, but LuAnn likes to go with the flow. So if you have questions, pop them in the Q&A at any point, because she might just go off script and hop in and answer some of your questions. The webinar is being recorded, so you will get a copy of that afterwards. And with that, I think, LuAnn, I can pass it over to you.
All right.
And
I'm
I'm
just
going to
looking.
mute,
You're going to
turn off
mute?
the video. Yeah, I'll mute. I'll turn off the video. And then if you need me, you know,
Oh, yeah, Sarah, come help.
I'll be here, and then we can banter some more, answer some questions. Or yeah, if you need help. All right.
Okay. All
Take it
right.
away. I'll see you shortly.
Sounds good. All righty, my friends. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for Studio Designer and Mydoma Studio for putting this together for all of us. I have a question for you before we get started. How many people, put it in the chat, listen to, and it's probably not a lot, don't feel funny, but listen to episode 1058 about a month or 2 months ago, and the title was, the pep talk, something like the pep talk you didn't know you needed. And it was about my interaction with a garden variety consumer on Instagram. So I'm just curious if you listened to that. Yes, Aram did. Okay. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. So we've got 3, 4 yeses. Amy, hi, Amy. Hey, Denise, how are you? Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So quite a lot of you listen to that. Okay. Yes. All right. So here's the thing. I just asked because literally when Sarah and I were talking about what should we do on this webinar today, I was like, girl, my blood got boiling over this thing. And the thing is, my blood got boiling because the consumer was literally underestimating what you guys do as interior designers and what you bring to the table. And if you go over to that episode and listen to it, you will learn that there was an exchange with two people I don't know. Turns out that they're both like big deals. One is they're both TV stars. One's a housewife from New York or New Jersey. I don't know. I don't follow Bravo. I know that's like, how can you say that out loud to a group full of women? I missed that train. And the other was some big guy that used to be on The Bachelor. So I don't know what the hell it was. I didn't recognize him, but you guys would. The thing is that I was scrolling and I see a guy saying to a woman, so like, what do you do when you charge for your design services? And she's all acting like who she is. And she's like, oh, I can charge anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 for my design fees. And I'm like, well, that's awesome, but whatever. So does a lot of people. Why are you saying it like, you invented I don't know, the wheel? And then he says, well, what about furniture or whatever? And she says, oh, and I usually mark up my furniture about 30%. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's awesome, but you're not running a profitable business. Like you're just not. You guys, I don't know who here is marking up their furniture 50% or less. Just put it in the chat. Like, maybe we should put in the chat who's marking 50% or more. We're not looking to embarrass anybody, right? So 50% or more, okay? 50% or more, 50% or more. That's what I want to hear. Okay. So more, less, more, less, more, more, more. Okay. So any of you that are not marking it up 50% or more, see all the people that are. So there goes the excuse. I can't do that, right? I can't do that. It's nobody will pay it, right? So let's just take a baseline on that. All right. But what I was taking exception to was I didn't know who these people were, but it was clear that they were both beautiful. So I made an assumption that they're somebody's, right? And then I went to each of their profiles and there was hundreds, maybe 1 million followers between the two of them. Okay. I want to know who's put those terms in their contract and how, please. Okay. So that's a whole nother webinar. All right. But just hang on. We're going to get you some language. All right. And so I thought to myself, well, this isn't good because here's two people with a lot of followers and they are saying, that this is how business is done. And it's not. A profitable business cannot run on a 30% margin. I'm just telling you right now, it cannot. And if you were running at a 30% margin on markup and you're exhausted and you're tired and you're not paying yourself the living wage you should be, that would be the root of it right there. Okay, because a profitable business needs to run at 50 to 60% margin, profit margin total. Now, you can do a blended gross margin. So if your project carries, a $50,000 design fee and you've got 4 or 5 of those in a year and you are selling your furniture at 50%, you're going to end up with a profit margin in the 60s or 70s. And that's yay for you because you're going to Aruba and paying your bills and treating your employees well and living a great life like you should be. Okay. But if you are also low on your design fees and not making a good profit margin on your purchases, or not even making any margin on your purchases, and you're wondering why you can't make this business click and make money, that's the reason. So my motivation when I hear somebody with a huge following that I don't recognize and is saying nonsense, I'm like, well, this is crazy. So now I went over to the chat in the conversation to see what was happening. And this stopped me in my tracks. There was a consumer, just a garden variety human, no designer handle. And her exact quote, I'm going to read it to you. Oh, Lordy, why does anyone need these people anymore with all the resources on the internet? Okay. So I don't know about you, but how pissed off does that make you? Like, I mean, like that makes me crazy, right? And so I don't normally, yeah, right. I don't normally get involved on Instagram other than, yep, incredibly rude. Okay. I don't normally like go school other people outside of my own feed. Because you know what? I'm not everybody's mama and I don't need to educate the entire world. All right. If you ask for my help, I'm going to give it to you. But she didn't ask for my help. That just was that was a below the belt shot. And I just couldn't let it sit. Okay. So here's the thing. When Sarah and I were talking about this, and we were trying to come up with a topic for this webinar, this was still relatively fresh on my mind. And I was still relatively pissed off, Jersey style, about it. And so, but the reason that I suggested it to Sarah is because you guys have culpability in this. Now, when I say you guys, I don't mean every single person on this Zoom, right? You're going to have to do your own self audit and gather a little self-awareness about yourself and the way you run your business and see if you're part of the problem. But what I know is after 1,400 interviews between 2 podcasts and, a dozen Power Talk Friday coaching events, 3 LuAnn Lives, almost 30 chairman of the board one-on-one clients, and 15 gabillion countless conversations at cocktail parties and live events and buses at High Point. What I know to be true is that part of this problem lies in your lab. And so I said to Sarah, if it was completely a consumer problem, then I would not have suggested this for a webinar. But what I know is that it is not, that the consumer gets bad information, and then we as an industry do not counteract it. We do not say, no way. And the thing is, when we do say no way, sometimes we're not saying it in a meaningful way. We're not saying in a way that actually creates awareness for that consumer and educates them. Now, educating your consumer, red flag. These are 2. And transparency is another one that I love. These are 3 phrases that go running around our industry like wildfire. And I think when phrases get overused, they lose meaning. And so when I tell you, I hate those phrases, right, Dixie? Thank you. Amen to that. Okay. So yes, we have to educate our consumer, but don't get numb to what that means. Because here's what happened when my first thing to this woman was, and I can pull up the chat. You know what? I actually have the chat. Maybe I'll pull it up for you. But the thing was, my first thing was, hey, you know what? Just because you can get a sofa on the internet doesn't mean you can get the right sofa. Because I thought to myself, how involved am I going to get with this lady? And I don't really want to create a spectacle. I got my own sandbox. I'm playing nicely in it. I don't need to jump into hers. But I just said, let's throw the softball. Let's see the reaction. Let's gauge what happens and see what we'll go next. And she came back with, oh, because I need you to tell me what kind of sofa to get, like a version of that. And I was like, oh, see, sweetie, now I'm in. Now I'm in with both feet. Okay. And so Then I got some Jersey pearls and went in. Yes, Destiny, how are you, honey? Um, the thing that I'm coming to you with is because I did go in and I did educate her, but if you look at it, and if you want, I will pull the chat up and read exactly what I said. But what was so disheartening to me was some of the reactions from interior designers. Okay, so yes, please. Okay, if everybody wants a yes, please, say yes, please, because I'm not going to make you all crazy if you're like, forget it. But the thing is, there were designers, and I don't know who they were. I didn't go look them up, that were saying things like, oh, but, have you won an award for your design? Or, oh, well, you know what, but, you have to spend all that time looking for it. And I just thought, these are not the crux of the education that you should be sharing with your consumers. This is it. They don't need an interior designer because they're working with an interior designer who won an award. I'm thrilled that you won awards. I'm thrilled. Yeah, somebody else said, oh, and I guess like you've been published in magazines. I am so happy for you if your work has earned a reward or has been honored by being published anywhere. I don't care where it is. That's an achievement. But that is not what you do. And that is not why somebody needs what you do. Do you understand? Your garden variety consumer isn't caring about awards. They might care about it as a credibility factor all day long. I'm not saying don't put yourself up for awards at IDS and ASID and IWC and all the places. But that's like you're going to go and get service at, a car dealership, and you're trying to decide between two cars, and the dealer, the salesman is like, I won 3 sales awards. I'm the top salesman every year. You're like, dude, tell me about the car, right? Tell me about the mileage. Tell me about the seats. Tell me about the Bose system. Like, it's not about that guy. And when you are educating a consumer, you're not educating them on the awards that you won. You're educating them on exactly what you do for them that they can't do for themselves. Okay? All right. So, all right. So you want to know how I did it respectfully. I should be able to pull this up very easily. Hang on one second. Oh, and here's my computer going wiggy on me. Here we go. Okay. So she says, Lordy, with the internet and so many resources, why does anyone need these people? I say, seriously? Being able to buy a something doesn't mean you buy the right something. She says, and you are going to be the person to tell me what's right? 3 question marks. See, those are fighting words when you put 3 question marks there. Okay. People need to decorate with what they love, what makes them happy, not what you tell them should make them happy. Okay, here I go. No disrespect. If you can design a space that you love and makes you happy, do it. But please do not make the broad statement that because there is an internet, there is no need for a talented professional interior designer. That's like saying because there is WebMD, we don't need doctors. Interior designers are not personal shoppers. Please write that on your forehead. I am not a personal shopper. They are professionals with skills, talents, and capabilities that are light years apart from shopping product on the internet. You never, ever have to hire an interior designer, but please do not say because there is an internet, they are unnecessary. Okay? So that was exchange 1. We're not done, my friends. So now she says very good points. I do feel that with AI and the internet, you can create a space for much less than traditionally thought. We as consumers have so many options. One, of course, being the traditional hands-on designer. Okay. So then I say, yes, you are right, of course, but about the myriad of buying options, no question. I'm only driving the point that buying furniture is not not the reason someone would hire a designer. With years or decades of experience, a designer creates a cohesive space based on scale, proportion, flow, aesthetics, wellness principles, and solves design challenges that others have no idea. Let me get to my third screen here. How to tackle, all while managing dozens of trades as well as clients' goals, desires, and personality. AI and the internet will never deliver this. But yes, strictly shopping for furniture, I 100% agree. This is a DIY activity all day long, and the internet is an incredible resource for this. My debate is not that that is not the purpose or the value of a designer. And now I threw a little softball, a little white flag, and I said, it sounds like you might agree with me on this too. And she said, yes, I do. And I said, yay, then I've done my job. I love it. Thank you for taking the time to talk this through with me with an open mind. Myself and all my designers, friends everywhere, thank you. Okay, so my friends, you see, what relevance is it if you have won an award? What relevance is it if you have been published, right? When you've been in a debate or an argument with a partner, a spouse, a kid, where you're saying one thing and they're arguing a different point, right? And you're just like, that's not the point. That's not the point. That's not what I'm talking about. And so if you don't get a grasp on how to handle this conversation calmly, with intelligence, with respect to your own profession, you're never going to be able to swing somebody over to understanding what it actually is that you do, right? Talking about, I have, look, is it a plus that you have trade sources? 1000%. Is it a plus that you can design things custom and get them made that they can't? 1000%. But when you're in a core debate like this with somebody on whether or not you even should exist in the ecosystem, that person doesn't care if they can get a handmade custom 8-way hand-tied sofa with nail heads and, custom brush, fringe on the edge. They don't care. They're going to find another one. But the thing is, we got to talk about the things that you do that only you know how to do. The architect doesn't know how to do it. The builder doesn't know how to do it. Nobody knows how to do it by you. And I just really feel like that's where you guys are missing the boat, is you are not leaning into the actual qualifications that you bring to a project. And I will tell you, the thing about this is, I'm just looking to see if I have any questions on here on this. I want to get that tattooed. I'm not a personal shopper. But here's the thing. I'm all for like having t-shirts and, I'm not a personal shopper as long as you know what you are. And that's the crux of today's conversation, is what is it that you bring to the table? Okay. And so my other screen isn't working so good. So I'm going to go to my notes because I don't want to leave anything off the table here. I know that there are multiple value propositions that you have as an interior designer that the rest of us garden variety humans don't have. So you need to learn them. You need to, like I would say to you, this is not unusual. It is not unusual to know what you do so clearly and so closely that you take 5 minutes in a circle to describe it, because until you've thought about how to describe it clearly and succinctly, it just, I can see how, especially with something as complicated as design, where you're just kind of get like a little brain freeze moment and be like, well, I won an award, right? So I want you to center on these 5 areas. You have space planning and functionality. By the way, I learned these 5 areas from you guys. Let's be serious, okay? I worked with interior designers for 35 years. with my company Window Works as a vendor, as a trade partner to them. But you don't think I like gave, 3 seconds worth of thought to the entire back end of your business unless you sat with me like Sandra Funk used to in the tub and in the driveway and say, what should I do about that? And how do I this? And what do you think about that? Otherwise, I'm showing up doing my end, right? So, but in 1,400 conversations, I have learned these are your high value propositions: space planning and functionality. All right. Again, understand at its core what that means is, because like that woman, if I just said, oh, space, she'd be like, I know how to put a sofa in a room and pick 2 chairs to go with it. But what really is space planning? What really is? How about somebody tell me what really is space planning? Give me a one-liner on what space planning is and the functionality, the intersection of space planning and functionality. Because when you can do that in a one-liner, we're getting closer to being able to, quote unquote, educate the consumer. All right. You think on that. Put it in the chat if you can. Project management is another high value proposition. Now, we all know, we all know, I know multiple designers. You probably are one. Maybe you have a friend that has delivered a sofa to a high rise that doesn't fit in the elevator. I've done the same thing. I've made window treatments with drapery rods that don't fit in the elevator. You make this mistake once, my friend. You make this mistake one time, right? But that's just the thing. When a there's a thing. There's a saying by a German philosopher. I can never remember how to say his name because it's lots of vowels and T's and Z's. But it's like an expert is a person who has made every mistake in their field. And I love this sentence. And I came across this like 35 years ago, like 5 years after we started our business, because in the beginning of your business, you're making lots of mistakes, right? You're delivering lots of sofas to elevators that don't go up. You're making rugs the wrong size. You're ordering window treatments at the wrong size. You're forgetting the fullness and the overlaps and all the things. And it's very, very hard in the business and in the first several years of business because you feel like you're constantly getting your teeth kicked in, right? But when I came across that statement, I was like, oh, I'm on my way to being an expert. That's what's happening. I'm on my way to being an expert, but only if I take the lesson of every mistake. If I just say, that's not my fault, that wasn't my problem, what kind of stupid elevator is that? Why did they change their mind? How come they put a sconce there? It's not my fault, right? For a window treatment person, I can take a measurement. 6 months later, you can give me the purchase order. And if I don't remeasure, then sometimes I find sconces and crown molding that weren't there when I measured, right? So the thing is that when you think of project management, I know what you think of. I know all the balls that you've got in the air. But just project management to a consumer is like, okay, so, you'll place the order online for the sofa. Thanks so much. But it's not. And it's not up to the consumer to figure out what project management means. It's up to you to lead with it and describe it. And so I would wondering, I got 13 new messages here. You have to have an elevator pitch ready. Yes, this is the point, but you need multiple elevator pitches. This isn't just high discovery call pitch. This is every objection you get, whether it's on the discovery call, whether it's on the consult, whether it's on the design proposal meeting, whether it's on the first stand-up meeting with looking at the space. These things are happening all along. And it's like, if you're waiting for a thing to be a confrontation, if you're waiting for a thing to be a problem, then you are not educating the consumer. And like I said, it's an overused phrase. Maybe, we can come up with a different phrase among us, but the fact of the matter is if you don't do it, who does it? Like, are you going to go research, all the ingredients and, penny carbonara, spaghetti carbonara so that you can check if the chef is doing it right? You expect the expert to know how to do it well, and to do it in an enjoyable way for you. And if you have a question about that carbonara, he can't be like, well, I make the best carbonara. I win awards. See? Why does one Joe Schmo make an amazing carbonara that tastes light and beautiful and delightful and just the right perfect, and somebody else is like, I'm sorry, this is like mac and cheese from a box? It's that experience and expertise in between. But the one that can deliver it at that level, if you say, well, how do you do this so well? Now he's going to go on, and he or she, the chef, is going to say, well, it starts with the cut of prosciutto, and then this, and it's the quality of the cheese, and it's this, and then it's the right ingredient. Like, it's not like, well, I mean, I just do it better than you. And you know what? If you have this down, yay, you, really. But my experience is most designers do not. And it's not because you don't want to. It's not because you don't care. It's because you haven't taken the time to really think it through and understand that you are going to get micro objections all the way through your process, right? And the more you can get things buttoned up at the beginning, the less they'll happen during the process. But when they happen during the process, if you have a very easy breezy, oh, well, no, project management, let me clarify for you. Project management is basically wrangling cats, because project management is a little bit more than making sure the furniture's ordered. Like, I'm going to be holding in my bucket the paint schedules, the finish schedules, the millwork schedules, the rough-in schedules for plumbing. And, you know, somebody who hasn't built a house before doesn't even know what that means. And so anytime you can be, it's like, now all of a sudden it's like, oh, yeah, it's a little bit more than clicking buy on a sofa and having it show up. Because the thing is, we also have the level of white glove delivery versus I bought the sofa and it's on my, you know, at the end of my driveway as I get in my house, right? So, but that is the least of it, isn't it? When you think about all the things that you do. So project management, you're coordinating contractors, timelines, and here's the critical thing. You are solving problems before they even happen. I want you to, as a little experiment, for the next 3 months, I'd love for you to, every time you solve a problem before it's a problem, I want you to make a note of it. I want you to keep a running doc of every time you're like, whoa, just caught that. You caught it in your office, you caught it on the job site, you caught it in a conversation, you caught it on an email. I want you to make a note of it, because when you are dealing with the luxury consumer, the fact that you solve problems before they even know they happen is critical. And if it's me and I'm doing a proposal and I'm trying to, you know, persuade somebody to pick me as their designer, I'm going to pull out a statistic like, you know, one of the key things about project management and having a designer on the project is, you know, we're problem solvers. I'm a problem solver. And you know what? I have a track record of solving problems at, you know, X, Y, 80% rate before you even know about it. And here's another percentage of problems that I solve typically in a job that you never have to know about it. I only have to let you know about the big ones, the ones that are going to cost us time or money or design change. And I would say that to them, because there are problems that are going to come up that are cost time, money, or design change. So there's no sense hiding it, right? But if I had just taken care of the last 3 months, and I could say, you know, as an example, in the last 3 months, I've had exactly 92 problems that I solved, and 70 of them I never even brought to my consumers. I had, you know, this is over 4 projects over the last 4 months, over the last 6 months, whatever it is. I literally documented 92 problems, and only 22 across 5 projects had to be discussed with the consumer. The rest were solved. That's project management, right? You don't have a designer, you're having all 92 of those conversations, my friend, right? So it's like, and of course, you have to understand something. This is what Sarah and I were just talking about. Like, if you know me, you know, Denise knows me very well here. Like, a lot of you know me very well. Like, we have a saying in my world, LuAnn is not yelling, because right now, if you don't know me that well and you have not seen me in real life, you might be thinking, well, this is a little aggressive. And if you know me well, you know that I'm on about a 3 right now. Okay. The thing is, when I get excited about something and I'm talking and sharing, I automatically ramp up and I automatically get animated. It does not mean that I am upset with you. It doesn't mean that I'm judging you. I am telling you, 9.5 years, thousands of in-depth conversations. I know for a fact that this is a misstep for many, many interior designers. Really having clarity on the unique value proposition of these 5 areas. Okay, third, wellness and livability. Right now, 15 years ago, were we talking about this? I'm sure there are people in the room here that was. I don't know if Liz is here or Chloe is here, some of my wellness designers or my vegan designers that I know, right? Credit all day long if you were on the train. I can tell you in the progression of the podcast 9 years, 9.5 years ago, if somebody said something about wellness, we were like, okay, that's interesting. And then all of a sudden, and a matter of fact, I'll tell you the truth. The way it came out in the podcast in the first year or two was through feng shui designers. Feng shui designers would talk about, how a space impacts you emotionally and mentally, physically, and all that. And if I wasn't raised woo-woo, I would have been like, okay, right? Like garden variety consumer, folks, garden variety consumer. But I was raised woo-woo, so I was always like, you mean if I have my tiger behind me, I get better mojo and I'm going to have better karma and I'm going to create better outcomes subliminally and subconscious me in my life? Okay, let's stick that tiger back there, girl. Right? So I bought in, but it's only probably in the last 4 or 5. I remember Laurence Carr talked about it. She might have been 7 years ago. She talked about it, not a feng shui designer, right? And then we had Mike Peterson come on and tell us about biophilic design. And then recently, last month, Erin Oruncock, I don't know how to say her last name. Erin, if you're here, I'm so far sorry. Oruncyk, I think it is. Aesthetics and neuroaesthetics and, design. I mean, what I learned last year at the RISACon conference, when I was speaking at the RISACon, that's the Real Estate Staging Association conference, which is a really good conference, by the way. And there's designers there and stagers, but mostly stagers. But what I learned at that conference, because Mike Peterson also spoke there, was that the medical profession was talking about the physiological effects, cellular effects on our body way before the interior design industry was. Studies 10, 15, 20 years old. And designers were not catching on and talking about it. I know that you are now, and you are primed now to here's the thing, what I have learned and take away. Whether you are literally doing vegan design or you're doing biophilic design or you're doing green design, sustainable design to the letter of the law or not, even your garden variety, you make a room beautiful design affects us humans at an emotional and physical level. And you need to be talking about it because it's the flow of the room, not just the texture of the sofa. It's where that sofa is placed in regard to the door and the light and the traffic pattern. So lean into that. The other bucket is visual storytelling, right? So it's a way to say, I can take random furniture and make a room beautiful. I remember Ruthie Stolson, if any of you know Ruthie, when she was on the podcast a long, long time ago, I remember her telling me how she kept a service, trying to recall what she called it. I don't think it was at Strictly Designer for a Day. She had a nice little fun name for it. And she said to me after she explained what it was, which is you can, for a fee, pick any room in your house to refresh and zhuzh by using only the items in the house, right? So, because we all walk into people's houses, even I do it, and I don't have the education and the experience that you guys have. You know, the people have the pictures up like, 2 inches from the crown molding and, all the crazy crap people do, right? My mother's house, I'm always moving things around, and then I finally left her alone. She goes to her own drum, but the thing is that Ruthie said to me, some of my friends ask me, why do I do this service? And she said, I really enjoy it. And I was like, well, that's the only reason you need, right? And she was still doing full service and other things, but she would go in and she would say to somebody, if you have a room that just doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel like it functions for you. And this was way before we were using the language of feel and wellness and all of that, right? But you guys have always known and instinctively when a room isn't designed right, humans, we subconsciously react. We don't know what we're reacting to, but we do. And this is the new education that we have been getting the last 6 or 7 years, the clarity on that, right? And so the way it works is, like I said, is her consumer has to leave the house, but before they leave, they walk through the whole house and they put a sticky on anything that is in the house and can't go to that room and can't move to a different room. So if you've got a lazy boy recliner and it's got to stay in the den, she can't move it somewhere else. But otherwise, all is up for grabs. And she said, in a few hours, people come home and it's all their same furniture, but the rooms feel different. They just make sense and they flow. And that type of thing is what you do, whether you're starting from scratch or you're zhuzhing what's existing. But you need stories to explain that when somebody thinks all you're doing is buying furniture on the internet, right? And then the fifth one, of course, your fifth bucket is you prevent costly mistakes, right? You've got to have 5, 6, 8 stories of somebody who on their own went and bought a thing and it's, sold it on Craigslist. Is Craigslist even a thing anymore? I guess Facebook Marketplace, right? Sold it on Facebook Marketplace for like 10 cents on the dollar, right? So I would love for you, and did anybody give me their, one sentence on space planning and functionality? Where are we? 140. Oh, we got to get questions going, my friends. Virginia. Okay, here we go. Space planning is the art, in caps, of arranging furniture and function to make your home flow better, feel more peaceful, and work beautifully for your everyday life. Okay, I'm going to tell you what. Garden variety human, like I don't have an answer to this question. I have the 5 buckets, but I didn't come up with your answers because, they're going to be on the same principles, but they've got to be something that you would say. Right? It doesn't make any sense for me to give you words if they don't feel authentic. So I would tell you, Sarah, that this is a good start, but it's not the end. This is a good start. The answer to each of these propositions has got to be oh my God, I didn't think about that. That's what it's got to be. Because that's nice. That's nice to have. And it's all true. This is not a throwaway. This is a great first stab at it. But think about, I would even tell you, throw this into ChatGPT and say, make this more pointed to the pain point that a typical consumer experiences while still highlighting how I am the answer to that. Because we got to get harder in there, right? We got to get a little bit, it's got to hurt me a little bit more. So, because here's the thing, the before and after is very different. Most of us don't know that our home doesn't flow optimally, could be more peaceful, and makes my everyday life is making my everyday life the best it could be, right? We're like thinking, yeah, I just need a new sofa. So does that make sense? Am I making sense on that particular point to you guys? Okay. Thank you. All right. All right. Okay, what was number two? Number two was project management. Okay, so let's space planning and functionality, project management, wellness and livability, visual storytelling. You turn random furniture into harmonious environments, get some clarity there. And you stop people from buying the wrong thing, paying for things twice, and blowing up timelines and costing money that way. Because even a timeline, delayed means that somebody might be in a hotel a few more weeks, or, the contractor comes off the job and he goes on to another job because, you didn't have the tile in the garage when he was ready to do the tile, right? All of that is, chipping away at satisfaction and money, right? Okay. Please hit the 5 again, repeat. Sorry. Space planning and functionality, project management, wellness and livability. You turn random furniture into harmonious environments. That's storytelling. Costly mistake prevention. Okay. You may be seasoned enough to add something, to tweak something, to change something. I just went based on the collective 9.5 years of interviewing you guys and kind of downloading it and going, what in a nutshell is happening here, right? But these are not the end all be alls. They're not the only ones. We could never reduce what you do into 5 things, right? But if all the things that you do show up somewhere in these 5, then you're good, right? Okay. All right. When do you think there's one leverage provide? Okay. Okay. So here's the thing. It's a funny thing because how do I describe it? This is not like a presentation, right? Like it is. And if you can hit it in a presentation, bang, bang, bang. And if you can figure out a way in your workflow and the way you do things to provide this in presentation format, I'm okay with it. But really what I want you to do, and is way more critical, is to know it cold. Know it dead. Know that one-liner for space planning. Know that one-liner for project management. Know that one-liner for wellness and visibility. Know that one-liner for costly mistakes, prevention of costly mistakes. Know that one-liner on your superpower on putting a room together that has flow and function and, the story for that. Okay? Because if it lives only in a presentation, then that's the only time you say it. It's the only time you say it, and nobody remembers it. Think of any presentation you've ever been a part of. Somebody presents you, I don't know. Look at somebody, your insurance agent, he sits down. We had the Aflac guy in here a couple of weeks ago. You can have this, you can have this, you can do that, you can do this, you can be blah, 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 LuAnn, this is your plan, blah, 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 blah. 15 minutes later, I don't know what the hell happened. I don't have a slightest idea, right? All I know is, you know what? I got some kind of coverage if my regular insurance doesn't cover the coverage if something catastrophic happens. That's it. But if I called the dude and I said, hey, tell me about that one thing. And if he was like, let's see. Yeah, that was number 3 slide. And then repeated the slide to me. No, it's got to be in your core. You have to know it so good that you never get tripped up. I'm going to Vegas market. I'm going to London to speak in London in June. And in July, I'm going to Vegas market. And I look at you and I say, give me your one-liner for why your project management is off the hook. You got to say it. Because this kind of thing is going to come up all throughout the project. And when we say educate our consumer, like, I don't know, do you learn algebra in one sitting? I don't. And I got news for you. Interior design is like algebra for the rest of us. It really is. So you got to be prepared to hear that question without this person saying, what is project management again? You're not going to hear that. They're not going to say that to you. They're going to say, I don't know, do you really need 4 site visits throughout the 6 months? Because, you're charging me an extra $500 for every site visit. Can we take 2 out? That's a challenge to project management, my friend. And you got to come right back with, oh, no, 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 no. See, these are really critical. Now I'm going to repeat from you, like, kind of what I know from Kathleen, who teaches for Design for Construction 201 at LuAnn University. You know, Kathleen, what she teaches is the critical milestone events in the course of a design for construction project that she knows from her 20 years and 2 gabillion construction projects that she's got to be on site. Whether it's the construction guy that needs her, it's the plumber who needs her, the mill worker that needs her, it's the consumer that needs a check at that point. But there are like 6 times across the project where she's like, you can go every day of the week, but you go at these 6 defined intervals. So somebody says to me, like, why do you have it built in 6 site visits and you're charging me $500 per site visit? You know, that's a challenge to your project management. And if the answer isn't because, the answer is, in my experience with the 15 years experience, 1 year experience, I don't care what it is. Whatever your experience is, it's more than theirs. These are the critical times when the entire team needs to be in sync. And that team is me, all of the trades, and you. I will go to the site visit. If you need to be notified of anything, I will let you know. But project management is me making sure everybody is on the same page and that I have the download of all the latest information, because guess what? Construction changes along the way. But these are the critical milestones that I have identified that absolutely are key for communication so that your project keeps moving. So no, ma'am, take a sofa off your list, but don't take a site visit of one of these off your list. You see, that's the Jersey comeback. You got to do it nicer. And it's also the comeback when I'm like live with you. Nicer. I would do it slower. I would do it softer. I would do it with more kind words. But that's the inside voice of it. Like, no, take a chandelier off.
LuAnn,
Yeah.
I love it. I gotta hop in here because it's just like we just did this panel at High Point too. Like not this exact conversation, but
Right.
your point was me ranting on a panel. Like I literally had to say, like, my rant is over because I'm listening to you and I'm like, it's like what you say about saying it nicer. I think it's like say it relatable to the client
Yeah.
is the best way to say it. So I think the metric is something like it used to be 7 touch points. You have to say something to a client to have them actually have the message sink in. It's now somewhere around 11. Do you think
Yeah.
like I'm reading the chat here. We're going to put it on social media about our process. We're going to put it on our website. We're going to talk. You're then going to have a practical conversation when you sit down with the client. And what I always found worked extremely well was I would talk through my entire process with them, but in plain language. So when the contract came, it's like,
Yes.
now we're going to get real technical, but when we're talking in your living room and we're going through the menu of services, the expectations, there is non-negotiables about taking off those site visits. Like I explained, like that's just non-negotiable. We can take off the extra sofa, we can take off these things, but these other things. This is a part of it. And I would explain it in a way that's like, I don't want to put the fear in people, but that relatableness, like, let's explain what happens if we don't do it. And so I would always say, even if it hadn't happened, I would say, like, in my experience, right, this
That's
one
it.
time happened, even if it didn't, because I know when it does happen, it's going to be catastrophically expensive for the client and delay the project, right? So, and they would just light up, like, okay, she knows what she's doing. I'm like, yeah, we are not skipping that site visit. We are not skipping this particular part of the process. And having that relatable conversation, I think, is not saying nicer. Like you want them to feel, hey, we're on the same team, right? And then they respect what you're saying. Like I'm coming at this, we're in this together. Like I am here, right? And I think
And the thing
that was
about it is this, Sarah, the crux of it is you're 100% right to characterize it as relatable, but also the crux of it is what I was saying is, you know why there's 6 site visits, not because it's some 12-step process that you got from some business coach and they said step number 5 is the site visits and there's 6 of them. Like, you know, to your core what happens on each visit and the things that you avoid by having that visit. So whether it's a site visit or whether it's the design process, whatever process you're talking about, and that is the core of it. If you expect your consumer to understand what you bring to the table, guess what? It starts with you understanding it. Does that make sense?
100%. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. If you don't know why you're doing something, how can you expect somebody else to understand it? And we have to break it down into simple language. We have to be direct. We can't be all flowery. Like this is, this gets me going because if you want to sell a project and you want people to trust you, like we're going to use those buzzwords. We got to be transparent. We have to explain it. We have to keep it simple. We have to know why we're doing something to expect somebody else to understand.
So, and let me just say something, Sarah. Noelle, you said, I feel like they're always understanding your touch points and site visits in the moment, but when it comes time to pay the bill to come after the site visit, they suddenly don't understand. Noelle, with all love and compassion, that is a you mistake, not a them mistake. I'm going to tell you right now, if when you buy a car, you know what day the payment is due, right? It's very clear. You don't challenge it. If you do challenge it, you're like, I want my payments on the 15th of the month, not the 1st of the month, whatever it is. But once the agreement is made, it's made. And when you get pushback on bills that are due, the timeline that they're due, it's because they didn't understand it at the beginning. And maybe you heard a little inside voice that they said yes, I'm not sure they got it, or they said yes, but like, okay, we'll get to that later. Like, you got to take the elephant out of every corner and put it always in the middle of the room. And if listen, I've done enough coaching one-on-one for a year with designers in their business. I know that consumers give back. I do. I know this happens. But I will tell you 80% of the time, it is because it wasn't clear at the beginning. It wasn't crystal freaking clear. Okay. 20% of the time, you have that stew nod that just is going to be a pain in your side. But we play different with stew nods. We go harder. We go between the eyes with those people and we just set the ground rules and we go back again. But I'm telling you, in anybody in this room that has done coaching with me, we have done hours on Voxer on this. They said this, and then I said that, and then I said this, and I'm like, okay, that's the spot right there. That's the spot where they let you know that they weren't on board, but you kept rolling instead of going, whoops, I'm sorry. If you're not going to pay the full fare, we're stopping the train right here. Bye, go. Right. And I don't mean buy, fire them. I mean, buy with your problem, buy with your objection, buy with your thing because you agreed to it. Right. Yeah.
I feel like we could talk for 2 more hours.
Oh my God, I was
that.
like, this needed to be a 5-hour webinar.
This feels like a really good therapy session in the best way possible. Like I'm loving the engagement. Thanks everybody for being so active in the chat. This is awesome. So we're just about at our 2 o'clock time. Is there any, like, as we start to do our wrap up, is there any last thoughts that you have, you want to impart some
Yeah,
wisdom?
what I really do want to leave you with is you guys are super extraordinary humans. I have done window treatments for 40 plus years, and I know how many details go into a window treatment project, whether it's one room or 30 rooms. And when I can contemplate that is one layer of what you are doing, my mind is blown. It is absolutely blown. Like there's like so much respect. But I think the problem isn't consumers don't want to value, don't want to believe in you. I think it starts with you. It's with when you really, truly get it, you don't compromise anymore. You don't say, okay, I worked for 9 hours, I'll bill you for 6. You don't say, okay, instead of 20,000, we'll do 15,000 design fee. You don't say, okay, I'll give you my discount on furniture. You don't do it because you have such clarity on what you're bringing to the table, right? That is the crux of it in all the conversations I've had on air, off air. I know the whole thing switches, the whole game changes, the whole business blows up when you cross over from Yeah, I'm kind of a big deal to, oh no, see, sweetie, I am a superpower ninja with incredible skills that you have never experienced in any other interaction in your life. Who else has as much on their plate as you do? I mean, honestly, who does? I would even argue to say that an architect doesn't. Because an architect can go into his or her office and do it all in the background without people yelling at him and without people changing the plan and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, he's going to get some revisions, but he delivers it. She delivers it. That's probably an over exaggeration, but you know what I'm saying. You're like in real time managing delays and out of stocks and back orders and price increases. It's bonkers what you do. If you had 1/10 the respect for yourself than I do, you'd never compromise. You'd never say okay to something you knew you shouldn't have. You wouldn't, because you'd know your value. And that's really, I read you those exchanges. I didn't say awards and nationally known and on TV shows. I told that woman what you do, what you bring to the table that no one else on the project can. I don't care how much taste the dentist's wife has. She can't do it. When you get that, then you're going to be good. And you can get that. You just take the evidence. Write down there's a problem that you solve. Every time, the things happen that are meaningful in a project and you're like, high five, I did that thing. Write them down. Weave them into your stories, weave them into your presentations, know it cold. And you can do it. I mean, you can. And it's an incredible thing that you choose to do. I said to somebody at High Point, and I am not exaggerating. I am not exaggerating. If somebody said to me, LuAnn, starting tomorrow, I will give you $5 million tax-free if you will be an interior designer for a year. And I'm like, nope, no, sir. I'm not going to be an interior designer. I'm not going to be a nurse. I'm not going to be a teacher. Not enough money on the planet. You guys are remarkable. You're unicorns. Value yourself. I really want you to feel that and know that.
LuAnn, as always, amazing. Thank you so much for your time. Honestly, like I've took more notes on this one than I have in a long time. So some great feedback from the chat and ideas for future things. So thank you, LuAnn. Um, so I just want to like the last thing I want to do is reinforce, at my Doma and Studio Designer, what we do is we really help you. We try to use our technology to empower you to be able to have these difficult conversations, but by setting you up with your process, right? To ensure that you're creating a repeatable workflow, that you're invoicing, that you're managing your finances, you're doing all the things so that you can feel confident to do this. So I'm going to throw out a quick poll. And we just like to know if anybody is interested in having us follow up with you. We're happy to do so. So you can do that and just let us know so then we know. Um, and then LuAnn, we have a few special announcements. LuAnn, you have, oh my gosh, right? You're way over 1,000 episodes now of a well-designed business. So LuAnn, you've put together your top 10 most listened to podcasts, right? Like
Yeah,
cheat
because you
sheet.
know what? If you're not familiar, if you're only new to the audience, you know, I don't know, go into a queue with 1,100 episodes. Where do you start? So we started to put that together. And also, I will tell you, if you are a longtime listener, I know for a fact when you listen to a show, even 6 months later, let alone 6 years later, you learn something different. You weren't ready to hear a thing that I was talking about or the guest was talking about. It went right over your head. You know what I mean? Because you're just like, this is the thing I need to learn. And you're like, oh, I didn't catch that. So, we just put it together in this easy download so that you don't have to go traipsing through 1,100 episodes to find something good to listen to.
Thank you. There's just so much great information there. So that's great. We have the link over in the chat. So you can grab that if you're interested in it. Thank you to those who participated in our poll. I'll close that guy. Last but not least, LuAnn, what is coming June 3rd and 4th? What are we doing?
We're
This
doing
time of
19
year.
hours, girl. I
September
have to
6th.
tell you, I think I have it in my calendar for June 5th, though. Are you sure it's the 3rd and 4th?
Yes, it's 3rd and 4th. The 5th is my birthday. I mean, we can do 19 hours on my birthday, but it's not
Ah,
about me. Um, yeah, yeah, it's 3rd and 4th.
okay.
But I'm gonna pop the link in there. I'm gonna end this poll. Thank you all. Oh, people are so responding, so I'll just leave it open. Let us know if you want us to chat. Okay, so for those of you who may not know, five, what year, 5 years ago, what year is it? 5 years ago, we created an online conference as our response to all of our lovely industry events being canceled due to 2020. We don't want to talk about that year. So now we're on to our 6th annual conference. Like, how has it been 6 years? We were going to do it one time, and then the next year, and then the next year, and so here we are again. It's coming at the beginning of June. I threw the landing page in there. This is a free event. It's 2 days. It's nonstop, full of webinars, but all with a cohesive theme about who's on your bench. We're creating some business plays. LuAnn is going to be doing keynote plus a presentation on sales backed by popular demand. So this is going to be awesome. It is free. Speakers are not posted yet because we're finalizing schedules. So once that all gets cleaned up, you'll see everything there. But you can pop over to the landing page and you can sign up now to get on the list. And more details will come. Can't wait to see you.
Great.
Anything you want to add on that, LuAnn? We're
Just,
good.
tons of thanks. I'm seeing all in the chat, the thanks and the high fives. And I mean, right back at you for you guys coming out of your workday to, pick up some knowledge, hopefully, and just a little bit of a pep talk here. But I appreciate you guys so much. And I just love, working with you and doing the things that we do together. It's my greatest joy when I see every designer one by one light bulb go off and then just like show up and do what you do with your brilliance and getting paid what you're worth to do it.
Perfect. Well, thank you, LuAnn, for all your time today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This was great. Um, we'll see you soon. Hopefully, we'll see you at the beginning of June or at our next Work of Design Live webinar.
Thanks,
Take care,
everybody.
everybody.
Thanks, Sarah.
Bye.
Bye.